Gracious God, we are thankful for this day, for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We are grateful, God, for this time of pause, this time of meditation and contemplation, where we can recollect ourselves and refresh ourselves in the Spirit. Now, God, we pray for open minds, open hearts. We pray for clarity of question and answer. Be with all who are here, and may we leave this place better informed than we came. We ask these blessings for now and for all times. Amen.
Amen. Good evening, everybody. Some more folk are coming in. That's exciting. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge a few people that are here with us tonight. Mayor Pro Tem is here, Ms. Carmelita Gums. Anything happen to me, she takes over. And then we have Dr. Catherine Rao, who is District 1. Two outstanding city council people that I truly depend on a lot. Others elected officials that we have in the room is Senator Donzella James. Everybody knows Senator Donzella James. I'm looking over the room now because, you know, people thought about you didn't see me. Any other elected officials that I missed? I'm going to do something too. I'm going to introduce you to my staff. My chief of staff, Dolores Baskin, in the back. And we have a newcomer to my staff. That's Don Alvin. She's my staff too. So those are the two people that get all the work done. I'm just a pretty face. We're so happy, and I guess you've already noticed that this is something a little bit different, huh? There is no podium. There is no, what do you call that thing when you put the videos up? They ain't got that either. This is about a conversation. Because a lot of times you go to meetings, you hear a lot of stuff, you can get a lot of numbers and stuff like that. But before I go any further, I forgot to introduce the short gentleman to my left. This is the city manager, Mr. Odie Donald. And I want you to know that we have a city manager form of government. These ladies over here, they set policy. It is Mr. Donald's job to enforce that policy. He runs the city. I'm just a pretty face. So I wanted to have it this way because I want you to feel comfortable. And tonight I want you to feel comfortable. I want to tell you some things we're going to do now. I know you're going to have a lot of questions because some questions are not germane to the city. It may be another governmental entity, okay? See that board over there? We call that a parking lot. And I want you to know that whatever you ask, it's important to us, so we not be germane. We're going to park it over there. I'm going to write that thing down and park it over there and get back with you and give you the answers if it's from the state, if it's from the federal government. But it allows us to keep the conversation going. Now, I know a lot of you all had a lot of things that happened at your house in 1959. God knows you have. But we're not going to settle them here tonight, what happened in 1959. So we want to have an open dialogue on a lot of things that's on your mind. I'm going to be asking Mr. Donald some questions. And sometimes you're going to be able to chime in also. It's very, very informal. You understand? We ready? Okay. You know, we have a great city. We have a great government. And I want you to understand that of the 3 years that we've been a city, we have done some miraculous things. From day one when we opened up with no telephone, no building, no anything, to where we are today. We have had some miraculous challenges, and we've been able to overcome them. I'm proud to be the mayor of this city, and I know that speak for them. They are proud to be the city government. And I want you to be proud of us and what we do. Because things get better. Things will get better. And things truly are really, if you think about it, they're better now. So we're going to get started with me and Mr. Donald. We're going to ask some questions of him that I know some of you all had. I've been around y'all long enough to know what questions you won't answer. And then at that time, we'll allow you to chime in. I want you to read the screen. Tell me I'll forget. Show me I may remember. But involve me, I'll understand. And that's a piece I brought with me all through government since 2000 because it makes sense. Until you get involved, you're not going to understand. You're going to have a lot of information, but until you get involved, you're not going to understand. This government called Southfield City of Southfield is yours. These seats that we hold, they belong to you. We, myself, my colleagues, we work for you. And we want to make you proud. And starting this day and starting at this time, we're going to make you proud of where you live, who you are, and who, and most importantly, who's representing you. Okay? Well, let's get started. Now, I'm going to ask these questions to Mr. Donald because he's smart. We're going to see how smart he is, and then y'all be able to do things. The other thing, too, is that you notice that we're sitting down on the floor. Didn't want to be elevated. We're sitting on the floor with you. That means a lot. We're here with you, down here. And so I hope you understand that all the things we've done tonight, they were carefully thought out of before we did this particular event. This is not the last thing we're going to do. We're going to do more, all right? And Pastor Parker, thank you so much. You know, I remember when we had the groundbreaking up on the hill, Donzella remember, on a real cold day. Boy, was it cold. And that was the groundbreaking for this church at that time. And this is a wonderful congregation. We're one of the greatest pastors we have in our city. Thank you for letting us be here. But I want to let you know he had the dynamite half for unincorporated South Fulton to build this church. I mean, he's shooting off dynamite every day. But anyway, let us get started. Mr. Donald, you want to say something?
Well, listen, Mayor, always excited to join you and have a candid conversation and one that's informal. I don't really, like the pomp and circumstance. So to have a conversation where people can ask questions, be involved in government, and kind of bring answers that people have in a very public setting. I'm excited to be here tonight. Definitely thankful to Pastor Parker. Always thankful for our council who supports us in everything we do. But bringing it to the citizens is something, I think that's the whole purpose of government. So excited to kind of get the ball rolling.
Well, talk to them a little bit about what the city has accomplished to this day.
A lot. So coming in from somewhere else, it's kind of humbling to see the changes that have happened over the last, and I can, of course, only speak to the last 2 years since I've been here, but I remember reading about the city before I came and folks being concerned about transition. Would the city be able to collect all of its tax dollars? Would we be able to transition fire and police? Would we have enough police to deliver services? There were a lot of concerns and to be honest, turmoil. But over the last 2+ years, not only has the city made transition, it's not a part of the conversation. People kind of forgot about that, and I think that's important. Folks were worried about could the TAM be paid back, and the city paid it back about a month and a half early. You know, when at one point in time there were questions about, you know, our ability to maintain and operate and deliver services. So just some of the highlights are, you know, you have stood up opportunities for people to be engaged in a way that don't exist anywhere else. So you had a total of about 100 public meetings to determine the future of the city, to determine the economic development plan, the strategic plan. You're currently working on your land use plan and your zoning. Those things are really important because so far the city has not only transitioned services, but done it in a way that's kind of, when you look at the other cities that came before us, in a very unique and efficient fashion. The year before we took over Public Works and Transportation from the county, they paved about 35 miles of road. Well, and only having the services in about 10 months, the city of South Fulton paved 64 miles of road. We've installed 3 new traffic devices, which I think folks are starting to see more on the way, including roundabouts and public safety activities, new turning lanes, and things throughout the city. When you look at police, I think for over 25 years, Fulton County provided those services, you know, in South Fulton County, and there was never a precinct put, you know, throughout the city. Well, you've got 3 mini precincts throughout the city now. You've put about $9 million in your first year of existence into the resurgence of these long ignored buildings. I think there were some questions that came through about mold and, you know, roofs being decayed and, you know, things of that nature. Well, ain't no secret, they didn't just pop up during the year or two that the city has been in existence. Those things had occurred for 20 and 30 years before. And since that time, not only have we corrected many of those problems or made historic investments, we started to add innovation into things. You know, instead of having to only call your council member or hear about things through public meetings, now our citizens can actually control how our services the 24/7 call center that we're calling the Citizens Response Center. So if you're not technology savvy where you can get on your phone and use an application, you can just call our 24/7 number, speak to somebody, report your issue, and then it goes directly to someone who can solve it, and we report back to you in real time. And so there are a ton of different accomplishments that I can read off, but I think the key accomplishment is bringing services directly to the hands of our citizens.
We've had a lot of accomplishments, and one thing people sometimes don't understand, where did the money come from?
Yeah.
You know, how did we get to where we are today?
Well, so I'll tell you, that's one thing I do want to kind of harp on, Mayor, and give some context to. I think people forget about, you know, you had these studies beforehand that said the city was a viable option, and they were all correct. But what they didn't do is give you a roadmap of how services are actually delivered and how finances are actually, our revenues come into the city. So on August 29th, I believe it was, the council was sworn in, and then the next day with those 8 employees who were elected and probably about 7 other employees, you started delivering services. And at that time, you didn't collect revenues until October.
Right.
And so the city took out a $12 million tax anticipation note, but had to start delivering services almost immediately. And so you start off in the red. And so every level of service that is expected by our residents has been met even prior to receiving services.
Explain tax anticipation notes. We want to be clear.
Oh, so it's basically a loan in anticipation of the taxes that you will receive.
Right.
What's interesting about that, though, is it's a projection. It's not a real number. What people forget many times is when you look at the tax base of the city of South Fulton, if you're supposed to collect, let's call it $85 million, well, you never collect 100%. You know, it's the same thing as, you know, if you got, everybody got bills due. And so sometimes you pay those things on time, sometimes you pay them a little late, some people don't pay them at all. And so as we collect our taxes, we're doing so at one of the highest rates in South Fulton County, but we didn't receive those taxes or have the right or authority to receive those taxes at the beginning of our inception. So much so that up until only 2 weeks ago was the city able to collect all of the revenues that we were eligible to receive. So when you do these projections of what the city is supposed to collect, you still have to meet certain criteria to be able to collect those fees. So one example is franchise fees, which is something that's a big deal for us, being able to collect money off of cell phone towers or cable and internet and things of that nature. Well, we were not able to collect all of those fees until we met certain criteria. It's the same thing with insurance fees and things of that nature, where there's about $7.5 million annually that we were not able to collect until we met certain certifications. And so I think, to the credit of our elected body and the many staff who work there, you know, we have maintained a certain level of service even though we have not received all of our, or had the eligibility to receive all of our revenues, and we did so without increasing or causing a tax hike on our residents. And so I think that's important.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people talked about rumors going around that when did the city go into black? You know, let's talk about that a minute, because we've been very good stewards of the money that has been allotted to us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let us talk about it. The other thing is that the TAN that you mentioned, that we did, and the tax anticipation note that we did have, we paid it back within 11 months of borrowing that money. And I think if somewhere to the tune, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about 14 million. I mean, what was it?
So it was $12 million was the total of the TAN, but when you add in your interest and things of that nature, we actually saved the city close to about $100,000 by paying that back early and not issuing for an additional TAN.
And we have not issued another TAN.
Correct.
Since that time.
Correct.
I think that's significant for
think,
people to know.
You know, even more than that, Mayor, I think when you look at the history of these cities, specifically in Fulton County, you know, they started off differently. So their year began differently than ours. They were collecting revenues in advance of operation. I think the second thing is that they actually put the brunt of their operations on their citizens by breaking promises about raising taxes, also by creating unique ways to collect money on the backs of their residents and business owners, whether it be examples in North Fulton of increasing, or what I would call taxation by fine and citation. So, you know, when you look at those operations where you got thousands of speeding tickets to be able to meet your bottom line versus in the city of South Fulton, we've kind of backed away from that type of penalty on our residents and just tried to operate good governance.
That raised a great question, because I mean, during the tax season this year, we got a lot of calls and people meeting us on the street saying, my taxes went up. And that, oh, I knew when we became a city that the taxes was gonna go up. Let's talk about that for a minute, and what actually happened, and what is our millage rate, and what is it still today?
Yeah, so our millage rate has not changed, but the issue is that for, I think it was the last four tax assessments did not increase the values of Fulton County. And so I don't talk about the decision of other elected specifically, but at Fulton County, who controls that process, for quite a long period of time, the assessments related to South Fulton County, and specifically South Fulton, were very much undervalued. And so those things occurred for, I mean, from what I understand, and I wasn't here, you know, I've been working in other jurisdictions, but, you know, for at least a decade, those values have been greatly undervalued. Well, about a year and a half ago, Fulton County actually corrected that problem. And while the millage rate has not changed, the value of these homes have actually been brought back into the appropriate levels, and that has increased the taxes. Not so much the city putting additional, levying additional taxes. It's more so the value of the homes have been right-sized, and that value has increased. And so you can kind of look at that a couple of different ways. I think your home is your biggest investment. And so the one thing that you don't want to be undervalued is the place that you live. And so while it is a little bit of sticker shock, it's not based on the decisions of the city, but I think the good governance and the great environment that we've created has increased the value of the homes in our area.
Well, I tell you, most of us here in this room tonight are homeowners, residents, owners, right? And we realize as a government that you carry the burden of the taxes to do all the things that he said. And it's incumbent upon us, and my colleagues know this, that for us to balance that out and take some of that burden off of you, we have to do it in terms of economic development by bringing in commercial businesses. Because commercial businesses are going to be taxed at a higher rate. I want you to know that's our vision. Is Mr. Pack in here? Wait, Mr. Pack, stand up. That's the economic development director. And we understand that the vision has to be to relieve you of some of that tax burden by bringing some other types of tax income to our city, and that's where we want to go. Well, we talked a lot about that. Well, let's talk about things that people are saying today, tonight about, they look at a lot of TV, and they read a lot of newspapers.
Okay.
So one thing I want to talk about today, I want you to explain to us, what is a P card? And how's it used?
So your purchasing card is basically a city credit card that allows you to make purchases or coordinate the business of the city. Only a limited amount of people throughout the city are authorized to actually have them and operate one. And the true purpose is really to deliver services or receive goods and services on behalf of the city. So we pay in about every different way to deliver these services, with the exception of cash, although we do wire activities from time to time. And
so I wanted people to understand that we do, most governments have a P card system. It depends on how they use it. For me, myself, I don't carry a P card. I leave it in my office. And I think most of my colleagues do, to be used on official business. But I want the people to understand, because people go, what is this P card thing? Well, this is what it is. And we scrutinize it, and we're going to be able to audit it and make sure that myself and everybody else who has such thing as a P card are handling it appropriately, because it's your money.
Well, and Mayor, to that, to just kind of, address that, because I stay off of the social media as much as possible. I get enough government business from 9 to 5, but to quell some of those concerns, folks were concerned about some purchases that were made, or does the city audit, or do we review those things? So the first thing is that we do audit those things on a monthly basis, while for a long period of time it has kind of fallen under the purview of the city treasurer. I think has done a great job in kind of monitoring that. Together we've kind of partnered to deliver some new training on the P card uses, increase our audit of P card use, and also give some more transparency, actually led through our council members who are here today, leveraging OpenGov so people can actually utilize an online system to really see our purchases virtually in real time. Many things that you hear about and you read about aren't quite accurate. So you'll hear about a purchase of, let's say, someone going on a trip out of town to receive training, and it cost about $2,500. What they don't understand is that $2,500 is a fixed fee that has been pre-authorized. So, hotel rates when you travel, let's say if you go to the District of Columbia, well, you couldn't get a hotel in the District of Columbia today for under $250 a night. In addition to that, for conferences, you know that price is going to increase. Well, you also got to have an automobile. The conference fee itself is included in that, which is going to average about $1,000. And then you have materials. And so sometimes you look at these things and you're not able to really decipher what has actually occurred. But, you know, the city of South Fulton, when it comes to the expenditures of money, I think we're probably the most frugal government in this region, definitely maybe in this state, where our budget, and I think folks in here have the impact report, where you really want to look at that because it tells you where your tax dollars are going and what the results of it is. And so every year that the city has been in existence, we have underspent our budget by at least 20%. And so I think that kind of, you know, equates to some real good government, because you look at these others, you don't see that.
So some of the expenses that you may see, even though they're legitimate expenses, it may not look to you like they are legitimate expenses. So we have to be very careful as we dialogue about that. You know, one of the problems we have too in this, well, it's a problem, yeah, it is a problem, and that is the medical facilities. Yeah. You know, we're, if something happened right now, you couldn't go to a hospital within 10, 15 minutes away from here. You had to go to Douglasville or Atlanta. And some of you remember that when the kids got in the accident on road, Donzella, you remember, on Camp Creek Parkway, and we had to triage, some of those kids died, and we had to actually ambulance them to other hospitals outside of the area. The need for medical facilities is one of our priorities. It is definitely one of our priorities, and I'm not talking about the, what do you call those things, emergency, urgent care?
Urgent care, yeah.
I'm talking about a full, I go to urgent care now. But we gotta do better in the area of medical care, and you wanna talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, folks say I probably said too much, but I'm excited about, you know, the leadership that our council has kind of taken on that, because we're advocating not only for the city of South Fulton, but really the region. I think Councilmember Gumbs, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it was about almost 6 months ago, wasn't it, that you passed a resolution for us to explore the expansion of medical services, not only in the city of South Fulton, but the South Fulton region. And so it's taken us a little bit of time to pull it together, because you have to procure things in government. But today, I actually am blessed that I actually use Dr. James Fisher as my primary physician, and we've had some trouble actually getting folks to come in and do this study. And so I cannot remember the name of this panel of doctors, physicians, and surgeons, but it's in partnership with Grady that oversees medical services on behalf of the state. Well, Dr. Fisher has just committed to partner with the city of South Fulton, because we've had a difficult time procuring this service. They will actually coordinate the assessment and study on our behalf, and so there may not be a cost to the city. I say may because we have budgeted for it, but while a group of physicians can oversee this study, they may not be able to deliver it, and so there will be a cost. But we actually got that commitment today verbally, and we'll be working through that process, because it's very difficult to procure. I think to give folks just some insight, the governor or the state of Georgia, not the governor specifically, oversees what is called the area for which you can have a hospital and what the distance is. Since Grady is a level 1 trauma center that services, I believe it's a 150-mile area, then there is not a need for an additional hospital center within that same range. Well, what we have discovered and what's pretty clear to our citizens is that everybody can't make it to Grady. You know, there have been loss of lives related to even EMS services, which our council has also taken a lead on, not only in the region, but in the state, to ensure that cities the size of ours can deliver their own EMS services. To date, we have continued to hear no from the state in being able to allow cities like us to do that, but our council has now petitioned the South Fulton delegation to take that up in this year's General Assembly in front of me, but we'll have a very public campaign that I think the mayor is going to describe in the upcoming State of the City address, and make it very easy for people to identify these potholes, and we'll have celebrations all throughout the city as our team from Jacobs comes out and corrects them. Long overdue, but I do want to highlight when it comes to these potholes and these issues, you know, I really hope that our residents are seeing that your council, your mayor, your elected leaders are correcting issues that long predated them. And so it's not even so much to give them great credit, but it's more so to give you great credit, because the whole purpose to have the city and control, you know, the type of services that are delivered and really have this thing called self-determination is to create an environment to where your problems get solved the way you want them to. And so I think this is just a great example of us responding to the needs and desires of our citizens. And so I always kudos leading that charge.
We got to do a quality job when we talk about repairing the potholes. The other thing is, the biggest war we have as elected officials in this city is the war on trash. You know, I don't know why people do it, but they do it. And sometimes they don't come from our communities. Sometimes they come from other communities, and they continue to dump. Our electeds, both of these young ladies here, and Catherine, I think she's picking up trash every 2 weeks or something, once a month. I'm gonna give you credit for 2 weeks. But over on Cascade Road, her and her people out there, last time I was with her, she had the Atlanta Skyhawks, the College Park Skyhawks with her, and other people come out, and they do a very good job. But she can tell you, the next week, the next day, it's right back out there again. So it's a continuous fight for us to make our communities more beautiful. And that's a battle that we got to win some kind of way, right? Now, we put out these trash cans with these little cute little emblems on it from the city of South Fulton. And God knows they're nice. But we got to pick the trash up when they get filled. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to handle that, because people are putting on the social media pictures of the trash can with the garbage all flowing out and stuff of that nature. We don't want that. We thought that was a good thing. There's also some of our colleagues not only have put out garbage can, but they have put out benches next to the garbage can so that you don't have to stand up and wait for the bus. So it's a good idea, you know, to do it, but it costs us some money to make sure that we get those garbage cans emptied. So talk a little bit about that, Mr. Donald, and what we're going to be doing.
So I think we are attacking, our council has decided that we want to be the cleanest city, you know, in the state of Georgia. And so it's definitely going to take us some time to be able to do that, but there have been some quality things that have been put in place, and there's more to come. So I think the first thing that we've done, and so I can't give you a ton of details on it because we don't want to give all of the secrets away, but we've started a pilot camera program so we can actually catch folks who are legally dumping in the act. And so we started off, and so I think in FY19, which ended September 30th, we only had one camera in every district, but in this budget, our council allotted quite a bit more resources for us to be able to implement this program more effectively. And so it's taken us a little while to do it, but what we decided was you can't just put the cameras up, it's trash cleanup. So when you're looking to do your community service, or folks, you know, have an issue with a ticket, can't necessarily pay for it, we've taken So I think that's, something that is just new and diverse in the way that we deliver services. But maybe even, more important than that, before we even had control of these activities, our council passed, resolutions and included in the budget for us to do a study on public art and public spaces. And so when we start talking about, a sense of place and what is the city of South Fulton, having these public art activities where our residents have an opportunity to kind of chime in and weigh in, and some of the great artists that live and work in our city being a part of defining our culture is something that's really exciting. And so this year we have it under Parks and Recreation. So we have the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. The design is to next year, once we have all of these facilities on board, create a standalone a standalone arts and culture department. And so I think the city of South Fulton is moving full speed ahead in delivering what will probably be the best arts and culture offerings in the state of Georgia.
During the time that I was running for mayor, one of the commitments I've tried to make was that we should have a police precinct in every district. Mm-hmm. We've just about accomplished that. Mm-hmm. District 4, District 3, we're in the process of putting one there.
That's correct.
And we also, the good news is that the rent on these places was reasonable. It was $1.
$1, yeah.
That's why they start calling me Dollar Bill. But the thing that's most important is that we're about to embark on building a public safety training center. Take that back. A public safety precinct.
That's right.
On Old National Highway. Do y'all remember where Ingalls used to be on Old National? If you go by there now, you see a sign say South Fulton coming soon. It was delivered to us, he just told me recently, a couple of days ago, we were ready to start moving. Today, and we're going to ready to start moving into that building. Now let me tell you the importance of that. It's strategically a good location because what it means is that every police officer who gets off the street and goes to the precinct, he goes straight down Old National Highway. The full length of Old National Highway. So once we get there, I don't want nobody from Old National to tell me about I don't see no police. They're going to be coming back and forth the full length of the highway, and they better not take a shortcut because they're going to come the full length of the highway to get to where we are. What will it house? It's going to house the court system. The municipal court will be there. The fire personnel will be there. And the
police headquarters.
Police headquarters, of course. We'll also have a courtroom that can be utilized for council meetings if we need to. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an exciting place. It's going to have a lot of people in there, and I want you to go by and visit it when we get it done. But once we do that, because of the size of the place, we didn't need to have 3 police precincts on Old National Highway because we got 3 districts. Mm-hmm. So the place is big enough to make sure that it will cover all 3 districts, and we're very, very excited about it, and I think it's going to do well for us.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, one of the problems we have, we're doing a great effort in making sure that you're safe. I've always said that nobody wants to live where they don't feel safe and where their children can't be educated. So those 2 things I really hark on as mayor. For you to be safe and your children to be safe. And I know we got some issues going on with schools right now, but we'll get beyond those issues. But the one thing that our chief wants to do is to cut the response times. Cut the response times. Crime is down in our city over last year by 17%. The number 1 crime in the city is theft from motor vehicles. And that truly is a crime of opportunity that each one of you can prevent. If you just want to lock your purse up in the car when you go get gas. Let me stop talking on the women, guys too, me too. Those are crimes of opportunity that we can actually do. So I'm going to let him talk to you about something exciting we're doing in terms of reducing response time for police.
Yeah, so, I think one of the things that's really cool about being one of the new cities, or Georgia's newest city, is we have a blueprint to kind of correct the issues that other folks haven't always been able to. And so in 1971, Fulton County created the beats that the police actually operate under. And so since 1971, with all of the changes throughout Fulton County, nobody has addressed the actual beats and layout in which we deliver the services. And so we partnered with Georgia Tech over the last year to just evaluate the city of South Fulton for where we are today, but also with all of the different economic development plans. And so in partnership with them and our mayor and council, we've developed our plan for how we'll deliver services. So not only will you have a precinct in every district, with the exception of districts 5, 6, and 7, where you'll have the police and public safety headquarters, you'll also have a new layout for how our police will deliver services in your community. I think the other thing that we've done on top of that is we've created something, and I get on Chief Meadows because he takes credit for this park ranger program. I keep telling him my mother came up with that idea after visiting one of our events. We are kind of doubling up on the park ranger program so that not only will we have park rangers who are eligible to do anything that a police can do in enforcing the law, we'll also have those folks at all of our city facilities. And I think that's a very big deal, because as you go throughout these different municipalities, we've kind of been forced to use security and things of that nature, which is positive, but now having police provide that service kind of helps us really get out into the community more and be able to address issues at City Hall and every other area that we're at. And so I think that combination of things is not only reducing response times, it's also increasing visibility, and most importantly, giving citizens access to us. I think the final thing on that, Mayor, is that I don't know if everybody is using it, although we have gotten a lot of use in it. We now have one of the first police to citizen portals in the region. So not only can you come to one of our facilities to file a police report or report something like a theft, or even whether it's loitering and other activities, you can actually do so from the comforts of your own home or your smartphone by accessing our Police to Citizens portal, which not only gives you access to government more, it lets you do it as discreetly as you can. And so we're excited about providing that service to our residents as well.
We have been very fortunate this year because we know that our employees need equipment to work to get the job done. Last year we purchased 27, I think, police cars.
Yes, 27.
27 police cars. We're now sitting, as we sit today, we're waiting for delivery of 30 new police
41.
cars. 41, I'm sorry. 41 new police cars. How significant is that? And I want every police officer to have a car. And I want them to take that car home. I want them to park it in your subdivision. You let me know if you go to the grocery store with it. But I want to park it in the subdivision because I want people to see that, we have protection here. So that's one of the things, because police officers, listen, everybody's trying to steal your police. Atlanta trying to steal them. Everybody's stealing police. Even South Fulton steals sometimes. So you got to treat them right. It's a hard job. It's not a high-paying job. And you got to want to do it. And so we're going to do it that way. So we're going to make sure they have, because we used to buy police cars back when I was commissioner. And used to drive them things till the wheels fall off. And you know that when you go back and look at the maintenance records on those cars that we had, it was ridiculous. And I want to say the same thing about fire. Well, fire is just as important to us as our police department. And I said one day, we're not going to buy no cars no more. We're going to lease them. We're going to lease them. Because when they get too many miles on it, we ain't got to take it over there and try to get it running the way it's supposed to be. Send me another one. All right? And I guarantee at the end of the day, we'll save money like that. We had a fire engine that was totaled out, brand new fire engine. The insurance company gave us a check for $500,000. We didn't go by and buy that fire engine again. We took that $500,000 and we leased 2 tankers, all right, Chief? And it's been delivered. It's in town right now. And we will be showing it off. A brand new ladder truck to our city off of $500,000. So I just want to make sure. On the other side, I have been talking with Dr. Looney, with the superintendent of schools. I'm bringing if some of you know, when I was commissioner, I had a truancy program. And during that year I did truancy, I picked up over 1,000 kids who should have been in school but walking around the streets. But you know their home burglaries went down 17% when I did it. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back with the support of the school system. See, Donzella, I can't give the school system no money. They really can't give me no money, but we can partner in doing things to make sure that we support our school. I know what's happening right now at the school in our city, but we're going to work together as a city and as a educational system to make sure that children have an opportunity to get an education and minutes don't have to be stolen from them because of behavior. So we will do that. So I just want to let you know those 2 programs are coming back. Mr. Don, I'm going to stop a little here and give them an opportunity to talk about some things. Oh, one thing y'all got to hear this, though. We're going to talk about this one, and we're going to let them talk.
Okay.
You know, when I first came here, we all came here. We went to other cities, and we looked at what they were doing, and we saw some fantastic city halls. I mean, it was like, Catherine knows, we was like, man, you know? And we was like, how you do this? And when did you do it? Well, we did it. It took us 10 years. Well, it ain't going to take us 10 years. We don't have the luxury of waiting for 10 years to build a city hall.
That's true.
We're going to get it done. We're going to get it done. I'm going to let Mr. Don talk to you a little bit about the proposed city hall, where it's proposed to be. Now, but don't get me wrong. Whatever we do, there will be charrettes. There will be community charrettes that allow for input on your city hall. So it's just not going to be what I want, Catherine wants. It's what you want in this city. So right now, we're doing the preliminary footwork to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah, so Mayor, I think, and I'm glad that you mentioned Mr. Christopher Pike. I think, before we even go into that, definitely excited that he decided to join our team from Villa Rica. I think anybody who's watching what's happening around the state, under his leadership, Villa Rica went from, a place that you just kind of passed through to one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Georgia. And so that's not by mistake, that takes great leadership. And so we're excited to have him leading our economic development activities here at the city of South Fulton. But, under his leadership and under the advisement of the council, we've done an economic development study wherein the first portion of the study. We had quite a few public meetings and surveys and things of that nature where we were able to hear from our residents. And not only did they talk about the city hall, but they also talked about different areas in which they wanted to see economic development. And so some of that has come forward with the Main Street program, which will be officially announced during the city's first economic development week.
Explain Main Street. Explain the Main
So
Street.
the Main Street program is a national program that really encourages and supports redevelopment in areas in which you can develop, I guess we'll just call it a main street. It's almost similar to a downtown area, but it can be, I think we're looking at Roosevelt Highway as a more historic area, where looking at Old National as more of a defined main street because we have the commercial corridor there. But then also, if any of you are familiar with City Springs, which is a great example and probably the easiest to discuss, where they have an underground parking deck where I think it allows for about 500 parking spaces, but then because it's underground, it helps to alleviate some of the traffic in the area, where they also have, I think, about 10 to 15 acres of green space, a theater, I think about 40 restaurants, mixed use housing, everything from affordable housing to apartments to condos and single family homes within a 6-mile radius. And so for an area like that for the city, the study recommends what's called Vanderver Lakes. And while that is important the reason why that's important for the city is because not only does it sit around a 60-acre lake for which you can create City Hall, it also would allow us to connect all of the various trails around Wolf Creek Amphitheater, the Wolf Creek Library, and create new thoroughfares to make it very easy for people to move throughout the city. And so not only would it alleviate existing traffic issues and things of that nature, it would bring the diversity in housing that would help support our very diverse community, where our fastest growing population is our seniors, but then the second fastest growing population is our folks between 21 and 35. And so that shows that the city is growing in multiple directions, and we need to have the connectivity to be able to support that. And so not only would it bring forward a city hall, it bring forward other areas and take advantage of what now can sometimes be confusing in the way we're laid out. It would make that something that is very attractive to our existing and future residents.
That site is a 500-acre site that has potential to be outstanding in terms of mixed use and even a possibility of a hospital being on that site. I don't know about y'all, but I've been so excited about it, I can hardly stay awake sometimes. But it's just something, if we do this, or when we do this, we will set ourselves apart from a lot of places. And I know that people talking about, well, why you didn't do it in my area? Well, you have to do what we can find the best deal, but it still belongs to you. I think it's in District 2, 1 and 2, yeah. So it doesn't matter. We want to make sure we have a nice place, because I know one thing that's happening in our communities is that those of you who are my age, y'all tired of going to them stairs. You're right. So everybody, you can't find a ranch. I wish I could find a ranch around here. But we're going to have some housing that's going to make sure people like myself and others who don't want to cut their grass no more, you know what I'm talking about, Captain, and don't want to walk them stairs, but want to live in place where they don't actually have to leave their community, all the stores and shops and everything. If you've been by Camelton Road lately, you see the walls are going up on Publix. Boy, we're excited about that. It's going up so fast, I'm scared to go walk in there, but the walls are going up on Publix, and Publix fits right into that whole dynamic of what he's talking about for us. It's a destination place. You can leave your house and say, oh, I'm going down here to whatever we're going to call it. I'm going to spend the day. You can spend the day right in your own city, and those are the kinds of things we want to do. But Odie and I have talked about things, and I hope that we have shared some things, because the positive things that you don't hear, the rumors that go around that you read about and that people tell you in your ear, I wanted to have this basis of conversation so that you'll understand that we are doing some fantastic things. And if you'll just be patient, not a long time, and allow us to do what we want to do. But we cannot achieve everything that we talked about today without you. When you see somebody dumping, you got to say something. When you see somebody in your neighborhood that's not doing anything, I know y'all nosy neighbors. Nosy neighbor is the best neighbor you can ever have in your neighborhood. You got to tell it, because I cannot put a police officer in every one of y'all driveways. I can if you want to pay for it. I can do anything you want me to do as long as you want to pay for it. So you got to join hands with government and to make it work. So at this time, if y'all anybody have any questions, want to add to the conversation, we'll give you the mic. Let's go to the mic. Go right ahead.
Mr. Donald, I just have a question regarding the charter. Section 7.18 makes allowances for a review of the charter after 5 years. But we've been hearing a lot about making changes to the charter. Why the rush? When the charter makes allowances for...
Well, let me give you. Yeah, so I will tell you, I think our elected officials have decided to look, and I think there's a local level and then there's a state level. And so I don't think any of us would want to speak on behalf of our state legislators and state delegation. But at the local level, I think what our elected officials have looked at is that there is some ambiguity in the charter as it exists today. And so they're looking at it just as a proactive step to figure out how we connect the dots on things that aren't necessarily clear. One of the most, and I don't want to step too far out of line on behalf of my electeds, but I think local control is something that's very important. And so because the citizens have requested that they have control of their governance. And so now that that is in place and you've had a period of time to transition government, it is important to make sure that the document that oversees the city is not only clear but effective. And so this group that is very in tune with what the will of the citizens are, but also has a penchant of correcting mistakes, is being very prudent in making sure that our governing document aligns with what's needed and is necessary to provide the appropriate parameters. And so the state, I believe, is also taking a look at it. And so I believe that their look is very similar to ours, and the two will likely align. And whether something comes forward or not, I don't think I can speak to, because as you know, the General Assembly is on break until February 18th, and we really won't know any next steps until after that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
At the beginning of the meeting, the mayor said that he wants us to be proud of where we live and proud of who we are and proud of who is representing us. There was also mention of our home is our biggest investment.
Mm-hmm.
And safety is very important as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
In light of that, I wanted to ask about the blighted properties in the area. Because I have been living in this county, city of Stockholm, for 21 years, and I love living here, and I do have a right.
Yes.
So, however, 10 of those years, not 1, not 2, not 5, but 10 of those years, I have been living next to an abandoned, burned out property. And I can't even enjoy my backyard because there's a forest behind there with lots of creatures I don't even know what's going on there. And in spite of all the effort of the wonderful officers of the code enforcement department, who have really worked with me and done what they can, that property still stands. And trash, as we spoke about, is an issue also there. So I've been living, not paying my taxes, voting for my representatives, and living in South Fulton next to that dump.
Understood.
And I want to find out from you all, what are you all doing about that, and particularly, I'm being selfish here, because it's my home. When is that house going to be on the first list, the first house to be taken down?
Okay.
In South Fulton. Thank you.
Yeah. So I actually think I know which one she's talking about.
You made that statement on Tuesday night. We got the address and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
But it won't be the first house. We've done several houses in District 1. Am I correct? Blighted properties?
On the list.
Burning down, but we've gone out to the owners, and some of them are being redeveloped right now.
Right. So yeah, you would be one torn down. But we heard you on last Tuesday, and we're trying to make steps to see how we're going to go on that particular property.
Yeah. And I think what's important about that is, there weren't rules or funding on the books initially, and that's why I think you had that problem for a while before the city was actually in existence. And so last year, the council put some preliminary rules on the books that allow us to explore and create a blighted property program. And initially this year, I think they allocated about $50,000, and to the credit of Councilmember Khalid, a part of the Old National contingent on the council, he actually advocated and put into the budget to move it up to $200,000, so that once we've gone through all of the legislative requirements that we have to, which I believe will be completed in March, don't quote me on that, we'll make sure to report on that in the next city manager's report, but once that happens, we'll be able to hit the ground running and take care of some of these long-standing issues. But again, credit to our elected body for creating an environment where we can solve that. So it actually has been put on the books this year, and some initial seed money has been provided as well. And so that's in process. I just don't know where that home is on the blighted property list. I know you spoke with Ms. Reed, who's over that area, so she can follow up with you directly for your home, or that home in your community. But for everyone else, you should know that there is a blighted property list that is maintained by the city, and there's now actually funding as well. And so once we go through the legislative clearance process, you'll see some results citywide, not just in your district.
Right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you. The name of my company is Cognitive Stream, which is a behavioral health and human service agency. My company has the potential of doing business in 27 of the 50 states. But what's becoming a problem for my company is in doing contract negotiation. The zip code that's registered to my company comes up as Fairborn, Georgia, which brings up an integrity issue when I'm doing contract negotiations. The second thing that was brought to my attention on one of my potential clients was that the crime rate, the increase of crime rate in South Fulton, the county, is being ascribed to South Fulton, the city, which brings up another integrity issue when doing contract negotiations. And my response is normally happy. I don't know what to say about that. And a couple of situations, it's like, okay, perhaps we can do business some other time. My concern is, when will we get our own zip code? And two, what happened? What is the possibility of revisiting the name Renaissance, Georgia, or some other name other than South Fulton because of the crime rate attachment of South Fulton? The county it's been ascribed to
You want me to
South
answer
Fulton,
that, ma'am?
the city.
You want me to answer that?
You guys can both.
Okay. So for the zip code, I'll tell you that has been a challenge, if nothing else. So it took us quite a while to be able to petition for the city of South Fulton to be recognized just period amongst all of the recognition areas, whether it be the post office or the Google Maps, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think
Right.
which is a little bit different than this time. This time, I think
Totally citizen.
it is 100% citizen driven. But you know, I would say, so I stayed out of the politics as much as possible, but I will definitely harp on for this one what's really important to kind of understand. First, look at the city of Atlanta. Great name, everybody loves it, all of that good stuff. But they had 4 names before they settled on the city of Atlanta. And I think when you look at their logo, they've had this name since 1839 or something of that nature. So it's a whole lot of name changing in a short period of time before they landed on the right thing. I think the other thing you mentioned about us being South Fulton and getting tied in with the rest of South Fulton County. So you can look at that as a negative right now, but that's because you didn't have citizens leading the process of South Fulton County. Now you have 100,000 citizens and you're the big bully on the block, meaning you direct what happens in the county and this region. And sometimes it's a good thing for folks to get confused about what is South Fulton, because now that you've got great economic development and you're driving what's going to happen in this region, when people are relocating and they're relocating to South Fulton County, they're coming to the city of South Fulton to make that decision. As South Fulton is increasing crime prevention strategies and creating the pathway of what public safety looks like for the city, by default, we're doing that for the region. And so that's very important because the city of Atlanta is only 0.5 square miles bigger than we are. They got 500,000 people, but the MSA is 7.5 million, and they're seen as the leaders. You don't say this city or that city, you say Atlanta. Well, it may be a benefit for saying South Fulton, because when people start thinking about that as we change the narrative, maybe you want them to get confused with the city of South Fulton because you're leading.
No.
I'm
listen,
not arguing with you. I just give you something to think about.
I truly,
All they do is when they look at their information, they see South Fulton County crime rate is rising. And so then my company gets labeled with, do we want to bring somebody in like that? Do we want to spend $25,000 on this kind of,
very,
anybody else that can bring in without the stigma attached?
and that's a very legitimate
That's fair, yeah.
concern. It really is. One thing that we did early on is that we went to the media, the television stations, because someone could get killed in East Point, and they would say South Fulton. Right. And so the paper would do that too. So we talked to them and said, listen, you've been a little disingenuous to us when you say South Fulton. Even when they say South Fulton, and they say East Point. Oh, Lord, I hope East Point will get mad with me. I'm just using your name. But that's what they were saying. So we got to those reporters and stuff, said, look, guys, you need to stop doing that. South Fulton County or whatever. That would help, wouldn't it? If you just say South Fulton County. So that has improved a lot, you know, because we've had the conversation. Yeah, we got things, and I see what you're saying, and I don't want you to be in that position, all right? So we got to continue to work to turn it around. And we have to tell our story more. I think that would help also. We tell our own story. So we continue to work on it, but I do understand. No, I don't want you to look for nothing. Oh, really? Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about South Fulton Highway, where the Publix is, from South Fulton over
Yeah.
to Jones Road. I want to know if they're going to expand any of those roads, because we have warehouses that are coming in the area, and the congestion, it's ridiculous. I've been in Fairburn city of South Fulton for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I had a property over on the other side, like over by Bethsaida on that side of Fairburn, and I've moved to the south side where Publix is and everything like that. But it's just really congested. The littering is a problem. And I want to know, are they going to expand roads now that they're bringing new warehouses there? And then also a subdivision they're adding there as well. So that's a lot of more traffic there. So we need, some expansion.
Yeah, and I live there too. It's unfortunate that cities don't have the same land use plans, especially when they approach each other's borders. We woke up one day and we have no control over our neighbor sister city as to what type of development they put in. They chose to do that. Even it would have helped us a lot had they would have had borders that would, stop some of it. But it is what it is. I am terrified at what that corner is going to be. Right. Because what you have is you're going to have trucks mingling with school buses and with cars. To our children who go to school at Renaissance and those other places, they're making that left turn to get into schools. But let me say this to you. I have been advocating with other mayors in the county as it pertains to bus rapid transit and things of that nature. Now, I'm going to say something to you that I said to them, and I'll say it to them again. If I don't see another bus in South Fulton County, I'll be all right. What I want to see is rail. I want to see rail. But what they will tell you is that rail is too expensive to do. So what they're going to do, what they're proposing to do is bring what we call bus rapid transit. And let me tell you, the South Side mayors fought very hard because when they showed the plans, they had rail on the north side. And we said, no. You got they were given $100 million. They were given $100 million by the government. And we stood with them when they got that $100 million. And our proposition at that time, Donzella can tell you, was we were next, right, Donzella? We're next, all right? Well, next ain't got here yet. And then you want more money. So here's my position with them. I understand why you need to do what you want to do because you have something called congestion. But just think about that. We don't have that type of congestion yet. But if we put in the infrastructure now, then you don't have it in the future. Or when you put the infrastructure in now, when things get out of whack, you don't have to go in and do eminent domain and other stuff to try to squeeze the rail and other things in. So everybody now is getting what they call BRT, bus rapid transit. There will be a bus that will be traveling down the middle of South Fulton Park. All right? Now, here's the deal, though. If you can't get the rail, as you build for BRT, build it big enough so that when we get to the rail, we don't have to acquire no more land. And the funny thing about it, and I'll tell y'all this, but I told the person who said, don't ever say it again in their life, Donzella. They said, Mayor, we're going to put a bus down there, but we can make it look like a train. I know, I did the same thing. We had a room full of people. So we're working very feverishly of trying to get what we need. All right?
So, but they won't widen the roads from.
That's
what I like it's one lane.
Yes.
Wait, if they can make that 2 lanes, at least to maybe past Jones Road, it gives us a little, we can get through there. But if you're trying to turn off of South Fulton or coming out of Publix, it's congested. People are going behind Waffle House, behind all this area, just to come back into more congestion. I think we need more
With-
lanes.
Yeah, there is, and they're considering a roundabout at, was it Hall Road?
It's at,
Yeah.
so
At Hall Road, their state's gonna put a roundabout there.
Yeah, and as a part of,
Thank you.
as a part of that expansion, as a part of the new traffic plan, it would expand. But the mayors, the South Fulton mayors have been meeting fairly often on this. We send out information on our newsletter, but if you leave your information with Ms. Freeman or a member of her team, Ms. Chris is in the back, we'll make sure to add you to that so you can get that information in real time.
And you can see the whole plan, all right? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Juliet Rankins, District 4. And I was at the meeting on Tuesday, the city council meeting, and it was just very frustrating. It was awful. And I thought we were going to do something different, and we're not. And one thing that I would like to see is the investigative attorney brought back to speak with the public and share the evidence that he stated he was gathering. We paid him for the evidence. He was gathering the evidence that we did not get to hear when the hearing was adjourned. Because what happened last night cannot continue, that cannot go on. And it's not about getting to know someone, it's about your policies, your behavior, your actions. So we would like Mr. Morosic, the attorney that we hired for the evidence, to be brought to speak to the public, not to the council, not to the mayor, not to the manager, but to the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you. My name is Isaac Cobb, and Mayor, I just want to say, you know, I read the report. You guys are doing a good job, so I want to congratulate you on that. Absolutely. I live over in District 4, right there at Le Jardin, right there,
Yes.
in that subdivision, and you know, we've talked about this before, but the lights. Want to see if we can possibly get some lights on Ridge Road and even throughout the community that are, you know, city roads.
Now, we laid the first set, right? We talked about that. They laid the track for the first light up towards the entrance, but I think you're looking, there was an additional area that you're looking at. Is it on the back side of Les Jardins where the new construction is? Describe to me where you're looking at.
I'm talking about just like if you're coming down
Ridge Road.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
talking about down Ridge Road.
It's pitch black.
Now, that's also a part of our upcoming, and so I think we gotta get people to look at these newsletters and things that we're having, because there is an update in there about where the lights are coming, and some of it is when the phase in which they happen, because throughout the city, and I don't have the total number, but there's a lighting program for which, and I know the mayor did one, what was it, to light up the city for the first ever LED lights that they turned on in Cascade.
I heard about that last
Yeah,
year.
but that campaign will continue throughout the city. And so for your own specific edification, if you leave your contact information, I'll make sure to follow up with you personally. But maybe the mayor may talk about it in the state of the city, I don't know, but we'll make sure to very publicly give some information on not only where the lights are coming, but the phases, because that's probably what you would want to know, is when it's going to happen in your community, although it's going to happen in every community throughout the city.
Correct.
And what's more important too, if we're going to get to become a smart city, that the type of lighting, LED lighting, has to
Yeah, I
become
use them
a
in my
part of
home,
our-
so they last a
Yeah.
lot longer and they're a lot brighter.
They're a lot brighter and they last a lot longer.
And I know that the first set occurred through all of our parks. That was phase one. I think there were some that were existing that just weren't turned on, and our council worked with Georgia Power to start that process. But Ridge Road, the lighting plan there, I know has already been set. I just don't know it off the top of my head. So I'll make sure to get you that information if you leave yours.
Okay. And the other thing, could you possibly elaborate a little bit more on the economic development, like what types of businesses? I think the lady that was a couple before me was talking about, you know, we have quite a litany of warehouses, but, you know, what other kind of economic development, what other type of commercial businesses are we?
First of all, you keep saying we have a litany of warehouses.
not
We
us.
don't have a litany of
Well,
warehouses. So,
we
but-
pass them every day. That's what I guess what I'm saying. So.
and I understand that because they are intrusive in terms of us having great economic development. But we understand. I mean, people tell us every day, white tablecloth restaurants, and, you know, things of this nature. We're very, very adept at what you want. It's going to be Mr. Pike's job and our job as a council to bring those things. See, we don't want nobody else taking the money out of our city going to Buckhead to have dinner. It takes money away from us. All right? So we need to make sure that we keep those tax dollars where they are. Go ahead, Ken.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Donald. Lynn King from District 4. Thank you for having this town hall tonight. Couple of things. First of all, in response to the trash that you talked about, I want you to know that there are some concerned citizens like myself. I happened to, over the summer, see Advanced Disposal going down South Fulton Parkway with the top open and his truck, trash blowing everywhere. I took them to task, and they have actually made some meaningful change as a result of that. So I want you to know that we do get involved, and some of us, when we see things, we will address it. Also, the South Fulton precinct. Can you tell us what the plan is with regard to the precinct?
Go ahead.
Which is she talking about?
You're talking about the,
When you say the South
I'm sorry, Cedar Grove. The police precinct,
okay, our police precinct on Cedar Grove?
yes.
Well, you know, we do a lot of our recruiting out of there now. We have officers there all day during the day.
Okay.
And our plan is, the strategic plan for all of the precincts is that they could be manned 24 hours. Well, of course, that takes time. We got to start somewhere, all right? And as we continue to grow, you will see increased hours in the precincts.
Okay. So it's not slated to be a training facility for the long term, or it is going to
No,
actually be?
I've heard that, and I've talked to the officers over there. I don't know where they came from, but they were telling them that they were a recruiting site. No, those are real policemen in there.
Yeah. And so the purpose is to have up to 3 services at every mini precinct. So you can come in and get your report or file a report or be able to access, you know, different services from the police department. And so every facility does not offer that now. Currently, it's more so to provide a presence and be able to have a place where officers can respond to issues in real time. But the plan is to actually expand that so that it's more service oriented. Yes,
And
sir.
then, you know, at that location at one point in time, they would lock the door.
Yep.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Very last thing, I'm going to beat this drum everywhere I go. I've done it for a year and a half, and I'll continue to. Is there any possibility that at least a feasibility study of some sort could be done to determine the feasibility of golf cart paths in the city of South Fulton, so we can put our cars in our garage and we can work and we can shop and we can play in our area and build up our own economic development?
As we talk about these town centers that we talk, we're not only talking about just one, we got several town centers in the making. And while we're doing that, we can talk about how do we get them together.
The accessibility.
And it could be very much so as a golf cart, because my goal for the one on Camp Creek is to include the Wolf Creek Golf Course. Maybe something that we have to build a golf cart bridge over Enon Road to bring it into what we want to do. So yes, our thing is to get the cars off the street.
Absolutely.
And through trails, pedestrian runways and stuff like that, that's the way we do it. But we got to connect it to other communities.
But
It
I
takes
just want
time, man.
I'm
It
sorry.
takes time.
Takes a little bit of
Oh,
time.
no.
like
And
that.
I get that, but I beat this drum because I want to keep it on the radar. While we have so much green space, especially in District 4, it's easier to do it now than to try to retrofit it later.
Sure.
So I just want to at least keep the conversation on the table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Donald, my name is Philip Jackson. I live in Leisure Don.
Yeah.
And I know it's complicated coming in after Fulton County moved out, but a lot of developers came in when the market hit south and they bought up that land. I just want to find out, are you guys going to try to hold them accountable because they're supposed to be putting up deposits? Like he talked about those lights at Leisure Don. There's a guy that's claiming he's the developer, but he hadn't paid for any lights. They're supposed to put up those lights as part of the development. So if you would, I'd just like to ask your code enforcement people to do that, because if not, those guys are going to come in, they're going to build something cheap, then they're going to leave, and then they're going to leave the taxpayers like us to clean up their mess with street lights and other things, infrastructure that they're supposed to put in.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we fell victim to that when we did the transition, because especially on the roads where they were supposed to have had bonding on the roads to get them done, when we went back and looked at Fulton County had released the bonds. So we had nothing to hold them for. So I can assure you, as we move forward, we're going to hold bonds until things are done correctly.
Well, I guess my thing is, while these guys are still here trying to get permits,
yes,
that we look at them. If you want a permit, then you need to look at the code section where there's supposed to be lights.
I got you, Doc.
Where there's supposed to be curbs. They're not even street signs sometimes.
Gotcha.
In nice neighborhoods.
And I want to make sure in that, I know if you and Isaac both could just leave your information with Ms. Chris in the back, because we have done some things in that area, but we have not reported back to the community on what's happening, and I'm sure it would be good for you to know and be able to report back, to some of your other neighbors on what's happening there. And so we'll make sure to respond to that. But there are some activities happening around lights and some of our code enforcement activities, and sometimes those things aren't always public, so we probably just need to do a better job.
Yeah, but instead of coming to the taxpayers trying to get the money, these builders trying to get permits for housing.
We with you.
So you need to be sitting down and saying, okay, this is code section. You need to have a street sign. You need to have a light, because they're going to build and then they're going to leave, and then we're going to be standing in line wondering where the lights are when they should have put them up.
Sure.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Jamal Grooms. I live here in District 2. There's a safety concern, and the question is very simple. At Westlake, there's a sidewalk that stops at the curve, just before the curve turns coming towards Union Road. So the problem is there are kids that walk each and every day along that curve, and that is a huge concern for me. I've lived in the neighborhood for 18 years, and I've watched this concern every day. So I don't know if anyone has ever addressed that, but it would be ideal if there was a sidewalk that continued to the corner of Campbellton and Union. That's my question.
Yes, there are a couple of activities related to that, and they're kind of interconnected. So we're actually doing a sidewalk assessment throughout the city, because the same issue that you have in District 2, we've got on Old National, throughout the city. There's probably no area where it's completely appropriate. And so we actually just petitioned Fulton County to make sure we're included in their CDBG allocation that they have now, because sidewalk projects are eligible for that. We've also applied for some other grants, and we're looking at our new budget to make sure when it passes, we try to fill in the gaps on that. But it's not being ignored. Actually, your District 2 council member has been very spirited in her support for expanding on that, specifically that area that you're talking about. So,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Bill, and Odie. Thank you very much for being here. This has been very helpful. Of all the things we've got to talk about, I think there's one thing with a very short fuse, and that's going to be the Fulton Industrial District. And I know we have a meeting in the morning, or that we might be able to attend, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make comments. I am concerned, based on the legislation that's downtown right now that is moving through, that would help eventually protect Charlie Brown Airport from being annexed into an adjoining municipality. It would seem to me, extrapolating on that maybe City of Atlanta is getting a little aggressive about the potential annexation of Fulton Industrial District. I'm concerned that my neighbors and fellow citizens have put a lot of money into developing Fulton Industrial District. I would hate to see that slip through our fingers to the City of Atlanta. So for that reason, Please, whatever you can do, help us protect Fulton Industrial. I
Right.
realize it's not necessary for our revenue, but I still think it is critical to maintaining that corridor up to the airport if the airport ever does become available.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Storm, in a recent conversation I had with the mayor of the city of Atlanta, myself and Mr. Donald, we explained up front that we have put a lot of money into that area. And that being the case, we can't be giving up everything. So even though we had a conversation for about an hour and a half, from my perspective, it didn't really go anywhere. All right, it gave us a start looking at some things, but we didn't accomplish anything. We're going to continue to do that. There's a lot of pieces that we're having to deal with when it comes to Fulton Industrial Boulevard, but you have paved the way. These citizens in here have paved the way under the Special Services District for all of the services that have been put on that street. And we're armed with that when we go into the conversation.
All right, one final thing for those of us who think that maybe we need to change the name of the city of South Fulton. We looked at this a long time ago. As you know, we've been involved with this for very many years, a lot of years. And we considered a lot of names back when we were going through South Fulton United all the way through. And I throw suggestions out.
Yeah.
We need possibly a 7-letter name.
What time, Storm?
7-letter name for completeness. Hopefully it could begin with an A and end with an A. Now listen, America and Atlanta are already taken.
Yeah.
So there is a name there. We just need to come up with it.
Well, Storm, make sure you get involved with that committee too.
Well,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, my name is Louis Bell, and I have a statement.
And Louis, you're going to be the last grade. We have to be out by 9.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask it such that your answer will address a number of things. The sanitation transfer station at Welcome has and continues to be an eyesore for South Fulton. Image is everything for this city of South Fulton for economic development. As a byproduct of the transfer station, you have trucks that come in there to go to that station, but there are other trucks that come further up that Welcome Road, and if you'll pass Welcome Road, you see it's one continuous pothole all the way up that side. When you're coming across the tracks, there is to the other warehouses, there's again truck traffic. What I'm getting at is that the signage is there. The signage needs to be implemented or put in such a manner with lights or whatever to stop 18-wheelers from using domestic or community streets and tearing them up. If you can begin with the transfer station, which leads to trucks, which leads to taking care of a number of things for the image of South Fulton. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. All righty. Well, once again, we want to thank you all for coming tonight. You can sit down so long you can't get up. I hope something was said positive that you didn't know, and I hope you found something that we said that you can get involved with, okay? So we really appreciate you being here, and have a safe trip home.
It's good to know that you're on it.
Okay, baby.
Appreciate you.
All right, okay.
Good job.